Yo, what's going on guys? Welcome to your 11th CSS positioning tutorial, and in this video I want to talk about Z index and stacking order. Alright then guys, so in the last lesson you saw me create this nav element right here, then I gave it a position fixed property and put it right at the top. Okay, so it appears right here on the page, and you'll notice that no matter where I scroll, it's always at the top and it's above other elements. Okay, like the other elements go under this bar at the top. Okay, now you might be wondering why I placed this nav element at the bottom of the HTML when in fact it's at the top of the page. And there is a reason, and I'll show you that reason now. I'm just going to cut this nav and I'm going to go up to the top of the page and I'm going to paste it right above there at the very top. Alright, so now if I click save and refresh, you'll notice that that nav hides behind the other elements. Alright, so the other elements go on top of it instead of under it. And that's all to do with the default stacking order of elements on a web page. Alright, so the further down you are, the higher the stacking order. So these elements right down here will sit on the top of the pile. And the further at the top you are, the nearest to the top, then you have the lowest stacking order. Alright, so imagine instead of elements, you're putting down like plates and you're stacking plates. So this is the first plate we're putting down on the web page. Then we're putting other plates on top of it, right? So this one is at the bottom. So as we scroll down here, it's getting hidden at the bottom, right, essentially. So that's what's happening, and that's why I put this at the bottom, so that it goes on the top of the stack and it appears on top of the other elements when we scroll down. Now, I like semantic HTML code, and I would like this to be at the top because it makes more sense, right? It should be at the top because it's at the top of the page. So how can we get around this default stacking order? Well, I want to introduce to you the Z index property, and I want to show you quickly just an image to demonstrate this. Okay, this is just something I found on Google Images, and it's an X, Y, Z graph. Right now, we've already been working with Y and X coordinates. We've said like bottom 0 and left 50 pixels, so it's going to be positioned right here, yeah? So we've already been working with those two to position elements on the page in different areas. Now, when we start playing around with stacking order, the third dimension comes into play, which is the Z dimension. That's like the 3D dimension or the stacking dimension, and this is called the Z index in CSS. Alright? So this is what we can use to explicitly control the stacking order when we don't want to use the default stacking order. So what I would say is that I want this thing right here, even though it's at the top of the page and default stacks it at the bottom, I want it to be stacked above the other elements, right? So I can give that a Z index property and say, hey, I want this Z index to be bigger than these elements right here. So let me get that picture again. By default, all of these elements on the page have a Z index of 0. So they're all on this level right here. I could say I want something to be a Z index of 1, and it's going to move it up the stacking order. It's going to kind of project it outwards on the page. So that Z index of 1 is going to be above, in the stacking order, all elements with a Z index of 0. Likewise, we could say Z index 2, and that's going to be at the top of the stacking order over the 1 and the 0. Okay, and we can go as far as we want up the Z index. So let's do a little demonstration. Let's bring this nav right to the front. So what we need to do is find our selector and then say Z, not in capitals, Z hyphen index, and give that a Z index of 1. Save it, and let's go and refresh over here, and now you can see that it's above all the other elements, even though it's at the top right here, okay? Because by default, all of these elements, remember, have a Z index of 0. We've given this nav a Z index of 1, which has projected it further up the stacking order, so it goes over all of the other elements. So, just to complicate things a little bit, let's just give this banner a Z index as well. Let's find the rule down here. There it is. And I'm going to say Z index 2. Alright, and now the banner is displaying over the nav bar at the top. That's because the Z index is higher. Alright, so we've got 0 for all the other elements, then we've got 1 for the nav at the top, then 2 for the banner. So then the banner is at the top of the stack, this is under the banner, and then everything else is at the bottom. So you have to be careful when using Z indexes not to go giving them out willy-nilly to all these different elements, because you'll quickly get confused as to what is where in the stacking order. Okay, and I've seen guys just go something like this, you know, well, I want this to be at the very top and I don't know what else is going on, so I'm just going to give this a Z index of like 9 zillion or something stupid like that, alright? And that's going to move it to the top. But then later down the line, they're like, well, I want something else to go to the top, so I need to give this a Z index of like 9 quadrillion, bazillion, whatever the number is, right? I don't know these numbers, but you get the point. Just keep it nice and simple. Don't go giving everything a Z index on your page, and try and work with kind of like the normal default stacking order as much as you can. Alright, so currently this has got a Z index of 1 and the banner has got a Z index of 2, so that's appearing at the top, right? However, imagine I gave this wrapper a Z index 2. Let's go down, up here to the top, find that wrapper, there he is. Alright, so what I'm going to do is give this a Z index, first of all, of, we'll say 0, okay? And save it. Now nothing's happened. And that's because, first of all, remember, if we give something a dimensional property like left, right, or even the Z index, we have to position it first of all. We have to give it a position value. So what I'm going to do is give this a position value of relative. And now you can see the banner is under the header, right? And that is because we've created a new stacking context right here. This wrapper has a Z index of 0, right? And it's on the same level, okay, 1 level deep below the body as the nav. So everything within this wrapper has a Z index of 0 by default now, okay? Even this banner. So even though this banner has a Z index of 2, it is only in relation to this wrapper. Everything in this wrapper is given a Z index of 0, and this nav, which is on the same level as that wrapper, has a Z index of 1. So this nav is going to display above, it's going to come above in the stacking order, everything within this wrapper. Right now, this might be getting a little bit confusing, but what we're doing is we're giving these different elements a different stacking context. So this now has a stacking context of 0. So everything in this wrapper, the maximum stacking order it can have is 0 in relation to the body tag. Make sense? Okay, so for example, this banner might have a Z index of 2. We could give this a Z index of 3, then that would appear above the banner. This one of, I don't know, the content of 1, so it appears below the rest, etc. But they're all in relation to this wrapper, okay? So guys, you can see how quickly this can become confusing. So I would say just practice a little bit with it. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to comment down below. Otherwise guys, don't forget to subscribe, share and like, and I'll see you in the very next video.